You can always tell when the game changes when she starts to feel your energy shift. At first, she'll question herself. Did I do something wrong? Then she'll test you, pulling away, going silent, trying to see if you'll chase. But understand this, when a woman senses you're no longer emotionally invested, her actions will reveal everything. Her fear, her pride, and sometimes her true intentions. Because a woman's reaction to your disinterest doesn't just show how she feels about you, it exposes what you really meant to her. Women are highly intuitive when it comes to emotional energy, and this intuition becomes even sharper in relationships. When a woman senses that a man is no longer as invested as he once was, she doesn't usually need him to spell it out, she feels it. This is not just about words or visible actions. It's about subtle cues. The tone of his voice, the way he looks at her, the level of attention he gives, and even the pauses in conversation. A woman's emotional radar is tuned to pick up on the shifts in energy that many men themselves aren't even consciously aware of showing. What makes this so powerful is that while a man may think he is hiding his detachment, well, a woman begins to sense it long before he openly admits it. The first stage of this realization is often confusion. She will notice that something feels different, but she may not immediately label it as lost interest. Instead, her mind starts racing with questions. Did I do something wrong? Did he get bored of me? Has he found someone else? This phase is marked by self-doubt because she internalizes the change in his behavior and wonders if it's her fault. She replays past interactions, searching for moments where things may have shifted. This mental loop of overthinking is her way of trying to solve the invisible puzzle of why the connection feels weaker. As her women's emotional intuition strengthens, she begins to pay closer attention to details she might have overlooked before. For example, if he used to text her first thing in the morning, but now waits until much later, she notices. If he once engaged deeply in conversations but now responds with one-word answers, she picks up on that. These small signals carry heavy weight for her because they reveal more than words ever could. A man's consistency communicates interest. Inconsistency whispers disinterest. And because she is emotionally tuned in, she starts connecting the dots quickly. Once she senses the shift, her emotions often go through a roller coaster. There is a mix of sadness, frustration, and sometimes anger, but the most dominant feeling is usually uncertainty. She no longer feels secure in the relationship dynamic, and that insecurity pushes her to question everything. This is where her intuition becomes both a blessing and a burden. On one hand, it helps her understand the reality of what is happening without him saying anything directly. On the other, it causes her to overanalyze, sometimes imagining problems that may not exist. Still, in most cases, her gut feeling proves accurate. What men often don't realize is that women rarely react to a single event when they notice a loss of interest. It's a buildup of small signs that create an undeniable pattern. And when that pattern forms, her intuition tells her that the bond is breaking. From here, she begins to prepare emotionally for what could come next, whether that's confrontation, distance, or protecting herself from further disappointment. Her intuition, therefore, is not just about detecting his disinterest. It's about bracing herself for the emotional impact of it. She knows that energy doesn't lie, and no matter how much he tries to mask his fading attention, she feels it. This sensitivity is what allows women to respond quickly to changes in relationships, and it's why many men are surprised when a woman suddenly confronts them or pulls away first. In reality, she didn't just wake up one day and decide to act. She had already been sensing his lack of investment for a while. So when a woman notices you've lost interest, it's not just that she figured it out. It's that her emotional intuition guided her there quietly but accurately through every unspoken signal you gave. Would you like me to expand this into a storytelling style, like a woman noticing small behaviors changing in her partner, to make it even more engaging for a speech? When a woman begins to sense that a man's interest is fading, her natural response is often to start testing the situation. These tests are not games or manipulative tricks. They are emotional strategies rooted in her need for clarity and security. Because she first reactions, when she feels disinterest, doesn't want to jump to conclusions, she uses small, subtle actions to confirm what her intuition is already whispering. These moments of testing reveal not only how she feels, but also what she values. consistency, effort, and honesty. One of the most common tests is emotional distance. When she feels you pulling away, she might intentionally withdraw a little herself. She'll stop initiating conversations or delay her responses to see if you notice. If you chase, she knows your interest still exists. If you don't, her suspicion is confirmed. This isn't about manipulation. It's about observation. She's trying to see if your energy matches hers or if she's the only one still invested. Another test often comes in the form of change. She might alter her tone, her level of affection, or the way she responds to your messages. For instance, if she once replied quickly, but now takes her time, she's not necessarily losing interest. She's checking to see if you care enough to question it. The silence or space she creates is meant to reveal whether you notice the difference or remain indifferent. Your reaction to that change tells her more about your feelings than any words could. Sometimes these EOC tests are emotional rather than behavioral. She may bring up a meaningful topic or express vulnerability to see if you're still emotionally available. If you respond with warmth and presence, she feels reassured. If you respond with detachment or avoidance, she recognizes that your connection has weakened. These moments are crucial because women often measure interest through emotional depth, not just attention or compliments. In other situations, her tests might involve independence. She may start going out more, focusing on herself, or appearing less available. Again, this isn't necessarily about playing hard to get. It's about restoring balance. She wants to see if your interest was based on her presence or if it can survive her distance. If you show curiosity and initiative, she feels seen. If you act unbothered, she realizes you've already emotionally checked out. What's important to understand is that these tests are not designed to trap you, but to reveal the truth. When she senses a shift, she doesn't want to confront it blindly. She wants evidence. A woman's heart values certainty. She wants to know whether she should keep giving her energy or start protecting it. These small experiments are her way of gathering clarity without having to beg for answers. From the outside, a man might misinterpret her actions as coldness or attitude, but in reality, they are signs of care. She wouldn't bother testing someone she doesn't value. The very act of testing means she's still hoping the connection can be saved. That you'll notice, that you'll step up, that you'll reassure her without her having to ask. However, if every test confirms her fears, if your effort fades, your responses stay indifferent, and your testing phase and emotional distance presence feels forced, she eventually stops testing. Once she has her answer, she shifts from questioning to acceptance. At that point, she begins detaches and emotionally, not out of spite, but because her heart no longer feels safe investing in someone who isn't equally present. These tests, though subtle, are deeply revealing. They show where their relationship truly stands. A woman tests not to control, but to understand, to see if what she's feeling is real or imagined. And when those tests go unanswered, she doesn't chase clarity anymore. She creates it by walking away. When a woman realizes that a man's interest is fading, one of her strongest instincts is to protect herself. Emotional detachment becomes her shield. This isn't an immediate reaction born out of pride or ego. It's a gradual process that begins when she recognizes that her emotional investment is no longer being reciprocated. At her core, a woman values emotional safety. When that safety begins to crumble, she shifts into self-protection mode to preserve her dignity, peace, and self-worth. At first, this shift might seem subtle. She'll start by controlling her responses, becoming less expressive and withholding the vulnerability she once offered freely. If she used to open up about her day, her feelings, or her dreams, she begins to share less. The deep conversations that once felt natural now feel unnecessary because she no longer feels emotionally safe. She tells herself, "Why should I keep giving when he stopped caring?" It's a silent retreat, not meant to punish him, but to stop the emotional bleeding. This self-protection is rooted in emotional intelligence. A woman knows that staying open in the face of indifference only leads to pain. She starts observing more than expressing. Instead of trying to fix things, she studies his behavior, measures his consistency, and quietly takes note of how often he shows up. The warmth she once poured into their relationship becomes reserved. She is not cold-hearted. She is being cautious. Her goal is not to distance herself completely, but to create a buffer between her heart and disappointment. In many cases, this protective instinct also manifests through boundaries where she once tolerated niece neglect or excuses. She now becomes less forgiving. If he cancels plans or shows lack of effort, she no longer chases or questions. She simply accepts it as truth and adjusts her expectations. This is her way of regaining control. She's no longer seeking validation or reassurance. She's choosing emotional balance. That shift marks the moment she begins prioritizing her peace over their relationship. A key part of this phase is emotional withdrawal. She may stop initiating messages, responding with the same enthusiasm, or making plans. It's not out of spite. It's self-preservation, self-protection, and emotional withdrawal. She's learning to detach so the eventual loss won't destroy her. Emotionally, she's building walls brick by brick, and each unreciprocated gesture adds another layer. The woman who once gave effortlessly now becomes cautious, guarded, and independent. Another sign of self-protection is re-entering her focus on herself. She might pour her energy into personal growth, career, friends, or hobbies. This shift is a healing mechanism. It helps her redirect the emotional energy that once flowed toward the man who no longer values it. Instead of waiting for attention, she begins to create her own fulfillment. This is the stage where many men misread her behavior, thinking she has moved on too fast. But in truth, she's just reclaiming her emotional balance. It's important to understand that a woman's self-protection mode is rarely loud. It's quiet, controlled, and deeply intentional. She doesn't yell or beg for change. She simply pulls back, observes, and makes decisions based on patterns. The more she sees inconsistency, the less she invests. The more she feels neglected, the more she detaches. Eventually, she reaches a place where her emotions no longer depend on his attention. By the time she's fully in self-protection mode, it's often too late to regain her trust. Once a woman emotionally de-risks for her own safety, she doesn't easily return to vulnerability. She may still care, but she refuses to be in a space where she feels unwanted or undervalued. Her silence becomes her boundary, and her distance becomes her strength. In the end, this phase is not about punishing him. It's about healing herself. When a woman senses that love is no longer mutual, her self-protection is her way of saying, "I deserve peace more than I crave attention." When a woman senses that a man has lost interest, one of the most revealing things she does is begin to mirror his energy. This is not an intentional strategy or manipulation. It's a natural emotional response. Relationships thrive on balance, and when that balance shifts, a woman instinctively adjusts her behavior to match what she receives. If she once felt warmth, affection, and consistency, but now senses distance, she begins to reflect that same energy back. It's her way of protecting herself from giving too much to someone who's giving less. In the early stages, she may not even realize she's doing it. She just starts to match his pace. If he takes longer to reply, she does the same. If he stops initiating conversations, she waits instead of reaching out. If he becomes emotionally cold, her responses lose their warmth too. This mirroring helps her regain a sense of control when the emotional connection feels unstable. She no longer wants to be the only one trying, so she lets his actions guide hers. This behavior isn't rooted in pride, it's rooted in emotional awareness. A mirroring his energy woman understands that relationships must be reciprocal. When she sees that the effort is one-sided, mirroring his energy is a way of silently communicating. I see the change. I feel it. And I will not overextend myself where I'm not valued. By reflecting his behavior, she reveals the truth without needing to confront it directly. It becomes a test. If he notices her shift in cares, he'll act. If he doesn't, it confirms her suspicions. This mirroring also helps her emotionally detach. By behaving in a similar way, she gradually gets used to the new dynamic. If he's distant, her mirrored distance trains her heart not to rely on his presence. It's a psychological adjustment. The less she gives, the less it hurts. She's preparing herself for the possibility that the relationship might end. And matching his energy becomes her way of easing into emotional independence. Another reason she mirrors is because she values fairness. She doesn't want to beg for attention or force effort. She believes that if he truly cares, he will naturally meet her halfway. So rather than chasing, she steps back and observes. This calm withdrawal often says more than words ever could. It communicates that she is aware of her worth and refuses to pour into someone who no longer pours into her. To Themen, this change may feel sudden. He might wonder why she's no longer as affectionate, why she's not initiating calls, or why her tone feels colder. But what he's actually witnessing is a reflection of his own energy. She has simply become a mirror, showing him exactly what he's giving. In many cases, this is the final opportunity for him to notice and correct his behavior. If he responds with renewed effort, the connection can still be saved. But if he remains indifferent, her mirror detachment becomes permanent over time. Mirroring his energy helps her rebuild her emotional balance. She stops overanalyzing, stops forcing conversations, and stops seeking validation. Her peace becomes her priority. And ironically, it's often when she finally stops trying that many men realize what they've lost. The energy she once gave so freely is now gone, replaced by calm distance and quiet strength. Ultimately, when a woman mirrors your energy, it's a sign that true intentions revealed she has recognized the imbalance. She's not punishing you. She's protecting her heart. She refuses to give more than she receives. Her silence, her restraint, and her calm Sat's attachment all say one thing: I will not fight for someone who won't fight for me. When a woman realizes that a man has lost interest, her reaction becomes a powerful reflection of her true intentions and emotional depth. The way she responds reveals what she valued most in the connection, whether it was genuine love, emotional security, attention, or validation. This stage strips away all pretense. Her actions now are no longer about maintaining appearances, but about expressing what the relationship truly meant to her. Every woman reacts differently, but her response tells you everything about who she is and how deeply she cared. Some women respond with understanding and grace. They quietly accept the change without begging or chasing. Instead of forcing affection from someone who no longer wants to give it, they choose self-respect. This type of woman values emotional maturity. She knows that love cannot be sustained through pressure or persuasion. Her silence is not weakness, it's strength. She walks away with dignity because she understands that staying in a space where she's no longer valued only hurts her self-worth. This calm detachment reflects a woman who loved sincerely but loves herself enough to let go. Others may respond with confusion or emotional reaction. They might question, confront, or even plead for clarity. This doesn't mean they are weak. It means they're deeply invested. They gave their heart fully, so the sudden loss of interest feels like a betrayal. Their reaction is emotional because their intentions were emotional. They're not trying to manipulate. They're seeking understanding. They want closure, not control. For these women, the reaction comes from a place of vulnerability, a desire to make sense of what went wrong and whether it can be fixed. There are also women who, upon sensing disinterest, attempt to reignite the connection. They might increase their effort, show more affection, or remind the man of the bond they shared. This reaction shows a strong desire to preserve something meaningful. It reflects loyalty and hope, traits that can be beautiful when reciprocated, but painful when ignored. If their efforts go unnoticed, they eventually learn that love must be mutual, and they redirect that energy toward themselves. Final message: what this means for men. Then there are those who react with indifference or sudden detachment. These women often valued the validation more than the person. Once they sense that attention fading, they move on quickly to seek it elsewhere. Their reaction reveals that the connection may not have been rooted in emotional depth, but in the comfort of being desired. This doesn't make them bad. It simply shows their priorities. Their focus was never on building a lasting bond, but on maintaining a feeling of significance. No matter the type, every reaction reveals truth. The woman who leaves quietly shows inner strength and emotional intelligence. The one who confronts shows courage and honesty. The Yoni who chases shows passion and attachment. And the one who detaches instantly shows that the bond may have been more superficial than it appeared. In every case, Her response becomes a mirror reflecting her character and emotional intentions. For men, observing, this reaction is an opportunity to understand what the relationship truly meant. If she handles it with grace, it means she cared but refused to settle. If she seeks answers, it means she valued the connection enough to fight for it. If she disappears without a word, it may indicate she was never closing motivation deeply rooted in the relationship to begin with. Ultimately, how a woman reacts when she realizes you've lost interest reveals the depth of her love and the strength of her self-respect. It's in that moment of truth that her heart speaks loudest. Through silence, questions, effort, or distance. And whatever her reaction, it always reflects one thing clearly. What you truly meant to